Welcome back to Bunny Banter, first and only podcast for everything Killer Bunnies. I'm your host Matt, here with co-host Mikey.
Hello.
And as a guest today, we have Chris.
Yay.
Chris is very excited. He's waiting for cake batter like everyone else. What are we talking about today, Mikey?
Today we're talking about Perfectly Pink Booster.
Yes, we are continuing the booster review series, which is probably a surprise to those who listen regularly because we usually alternate on those. But long story short, we're all waiting for cake batter. So we're just going to continue the booster review series until we can actually talk about cake batter because that's the only thing on my mind. So coming up with other topics is difficult. So yes, we're talking about Perfectly Pink Booster today, booster review series where we each give one banned card. Perhaps it's a card that we don't like drawing because it's worthless, or it's a card that we don't like having played against us, or maybe we don't like it for some other reason. But for whatever reason, we decide that we do not like this card. This is our least favorite card of the set. And then we pick our top 3 favorite cards of the set each. So starting with my banned card, oh boy. My banned card is Bunny Graw. Oh boy, where do I start with this card? So it's a aggressive run card that rolls 3 dice. Maybe use once by player to return any number of Cabbage Water defense cards to their draw piles and draw back if he can roll either 3 of the same number or 3 consecutive numbers on the dice. How is that even possible? It's such a difficult roll. You know, it seems like one of those requirements where you would expect to get 3 rolls on each die, but you don't. And if you do, by some miracle, get the requirements of 3 consecutive numbers or 3 of the same number, which is absolutely ridiculous on one roll, the reward isn't that great. It's just exchanging your food supplies. Not even all the food supplies, since this was made in Pink Boost. You don't get to do the radish and milk. Feels bad. Even with the semi-recent release of the Forever Foods, this is still very irrelevant. Second problem I have with it, as though that wasn't enough, why is it aggressive? If I was to suggest one of 2 changes, if not both changes, to fix this card and make it more what you would expect in terms of Killer Bunnies balance. You have exceptions like Shuffleboard, which just feel bad. But if I was to balance this card to make it an acceptable card for passive strategy, because right now it's outside the realm of passive, it's a literal do nothing, you may as well pass a turn, I would change it so that it is first non-aggressive, because there's no reason for this card to be aggressive. Unless it's for thematic reasons. I've never been to Mardi Gras, so who knows. Second, I would give each die 3 rolls, because that is already difficult enough. Again, there's requirements on 3 rolls on each die. Even with pawns is a difficult task. Getting it with 1 is ridiculous. It's basically a shuffleboard, except the reward is less. So that's my banned card, Bunny Graw. What you got, Chris?
I chose Necrophagy. And Necrophagy inherently isn't a terrible card, but it requires a reshuffle. And if you've played Killer Bunnies long enough, you know reshuffle is not a keyword or mechanic anyone enjoys. That's all I need to say.
Yes, Necrophagy is the very big weapon, level 20, where you have the variable range based on a die roll, so it could just wipe out the entire board, and often does. But there is the possibility of either if the range die, the pink die, rolls the current month, or if you roll the current Zodiac, because the Zodiac die is rolled randomly, then it's returned to the deck and shuffled. That's about 16% of the time, by the way. The only reason I know that is because we talked about during the Killer Bunnies tournament, so fun fact there. But that's the big problem is, why is shuffling a card back into the deck a mechanic? When there is a 1,400 card deck, approximately, currently, I don't want to do a reshuffle. So if in a virtual format, I have absolutely no problem with this card. I very easily could have made it my ban. The only reason I didn't is because Chris had it as his ban. But you can't reshuffle in a 1,400 card deck. So there's two solutions. Either you put it in the pile you're using currently right now, which is a very how do I describe that? Non-canon solution. Like,
Sloppy.
yeah, you shuffled with an eighth of the cards. Congratulations. Okay, I guess so. The other solution that I thought of today is in a canon shuffle of Necrofrashi, the odds of actually seeing it ever again are essentially null. So let's just remove it from the game after it fails. And that's probably the actual solution. And the reason why that matters is when Necrofrashi shuffles, you don't get to buy it back. That's actually a big deal because it's such a good weapon.
What was the condition for the reshuffle again?
Either the pink die rolls current month or the zodiac die rolls current zodiac. Happens about 16% of the time. If my math was right during the tournament.
So what happens if you reshuffle after that happens and you get to draw the card again and then
It's
you roll
possible.
it again?
And then you
It's
reshuffle again.
never-ending. No!
It's technically possible, but if you're doing a true shuffle, the odds of getting this card again are extremely unlikely. So that's the problem that Chris and I have with it, is that shuffling cards back into the deck should not be a mechanic that exists because it's not possible or not reasonable to do in a valid way in a physical format. In a virtual format like Tabletop Simulator, sure, it works. But you may as well just remove the card from the game. You're not going to draw it again. Okay, that was Chris's number 2 ban card. Mikey, what's yours?
My band card is Pinky Tuscahero. When at first, just one moment, sorry.
It's a trap.
Ha! I think Mikey has hopped away.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had an interruption.
It was intentional. You were repositioning yourself in the. So it's just like Pink
Yes.
Tuscahero, yes.
Okay. Pinky Tuscahero. At first, when you read it, it's a pink bunny. It has the power to reposition herself anywhere in the bunny circle between any two players. It's like, or any two players' turns. It's like, hey, this sounds like kind of a cool idea. And then you read more, and then you find out that you won't be able to avoid any weapons attacks, although you can avoid roaming reds. Also, if you position yourself into anybody else's area of the bunny circle, then she belongs to them. And so, I don't know. It just, Matt, you said a little bit before the podcast, it's kind of useless. And it is. There's I would honestly, I think most of the time when I've had it, I've just put it down and never moved it. It's just acted like any other bunny. So, yeah, it's just kind of useless. There's nothing super special about it unless somebody decides to lay down a roaming red. And a lot of times I don't really see roaming reds laid down because nobody wants to feel the wrath of the roaming red. So, yeah, it's just useless.
Lots of fun. Okay, that was Mikey's band card. Going into each of our top 3s. My number 3, is Pinky Tuscahero. Now, before I say anything about it, I should mention, and this is kind of the point of Boost Review Series, I actually had difficulty making the top 3 list for the Pink Booster. I thought there were more cards I liked in there, but I couldn't find that many. So that kind of says something. Mikey actually had the opposite problem. He found too many cards he liked and had difficulty banning one. So my number 3 is Pinky Tuscahero. And I completely agree with Mikey that it is absolutely worthless. The only use case, essentially, well, there's 2 use cases, both of which don't matter. The first one, which is the obvious one, is to hop over a roaming red that's currently targeting some other bunny that you have, like So Cyber Bunny's on the bunny to your right. In between turns, Pink Tuscarora jumps over that bunny. Now Cyber Bunny will avoid Pink Tuscarora. Great, I can avoid Cyber Bunny. Who actually cares if Pinky Tuscarora is not a bunny that's worth protecting? What's the point? You know, give it a rank, I suppose. Then it's slightly more difficult to kill, but at the same time, if it's really worth killing, like if it has a rank on it, then just start the roaming red on Pinky Tuscarora or use literally any other kill card. And it works just fine. You know, it doesn't make sense in that use case. The second use case, which is less intuitive, is having the ability to trade when it's not your turn, which is a weird one. Actually, that'll be third use case that I'll get to in a second here. But since you can do it in between two players' turns and giving it to the next player in the bunny circle counts as a trade, you can give a bunny to someone when it's not your turn, which is kind of a weird thing and might have some sort of use case somewhere, but I've never actually seen it done, so that's just a theoretical. The third, which is terrifying, is if Mad Bunny Disease is in play. You can force Pink Tuscarora to go over to the next player in line, and then they will have the Mad Bunny Disease. So, fun!
What's the interaction with Bundergrounds?
With Bundergrounds?
Do they hop over the Bunderground, or they hop in the Bunderground without a ticket?
It would hop over the Bunderground if the bunny in the if there's currently a bunny in the Bunderground.
If it's in the Bunderground, can it escape the Bunderground?
It probably could, but there'd be... Well, yeah, it could, but there'd be very little reason to, because it's just going to go back there the next time the die is rolled.
So what you're saying is it can hop out but not in?
If there were... that would be correct, yeah. But the only reason why you'd want to hop out is if there were two oyster crackered bunnies in play, one of them being Pink Tuscarora, because then you can open the slot for the other one to be stolen, I guess. Okay, good luck getting two oyster crackers in play. One of them completely wasted on Harrow.
It begs the question about Bunderground synergy, which is a stupid topic, and we don't need to go any further.
We'll get there when we get to booster review for London.
We might need to have a more in-talk discussion about that.
We might.
I'm not sure if that's exactly the right ruling.
Right, you're not sure if it's the right ruling whether Harrow can actually jump in the Bunderground?
Can it hop in and be there?
It shouldn't be able to hop. A Bunderground isn't considered a space unless there's a bunny in it, so it's not physically there.
But I suppose
it's awkward, yes, but it can't hop in.
But then why should it hop out?
Because then it changes spaces. Because it is a space when there is a bunny in there, so it's in its space and it leaves that space.
It's a Schrodinger's cat analogy.
It's not a Schrodinger's cat. Well, it's a timing thing, right? Because the space stops existing as soon as it hops out. So it's hopping out of a space that immediately stops existing. That's what it is. Which is a weird thought, but not actually mechanically relevant. But none of that actually matters because nobody's going to put an oyster cracker on Tuscarora anyways. Why would you? There are more relevant bunnies that the oyster cracker must go on. Unless somebody...
Good passive play, though.
Good passive play, yeah, it's passive play. Sometimes losing is in fact the winning play. But yeah, I picked Pink Tuscarora because in our group, specifically with Chris, we like to joke and remind the player, oh, do you want to hop now? It's in between two players' turns. You have the opportunity to switch places, and then we'll just do it just for fun, just to see the bunny.
And yet we have a card that's called, what, Shift of Hand?
Sleight of hand, yeah.
Sleight of Hand.
Yeah, it's basically that, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to play Sleight of Hand, let me just move your bunny circle around. Oh, you already have it in the spot that I wanted. Okay, I'm just going
If you do Sleight of Hand on Pink Tuscarora, you can move 2 spaces at the same time.
Yes! Pink Tuscarora hard counter Sleight of Hand. Haha! Countered! Nice!
And no, it works because you can give it Mad Bunny Disease when it's in the center of your thing, and you can move over 2 spaces.
No, well, yes, yeah, if it's in the center, I suppose, yeah, that would work. Or you could just wait 2
Two
turns.
faces.
The interesting thing about the Mad Blind Disease example is that pink, and I wish this wasn't a mechanic because it really should not be. I'm going to have to double check if it's actually in the bits because I might have to check to get an errata on a clarification from Jeff because it should not be the case. But currently, it is the case, whether it's been clarified or actually in the bits, I need to check, that if Pink Tuskegee changes to another player's ownership, that is considered a trade. The one trade rule applies. I don't think the one trade rule should apply there. It is not strictly a trade. So if it's not directly clarified, which I'll check while Chris has talked about his next card here, because it's been a while since I've checked Pink Tuskegee, then it shouldn't be the case, but it was clarified at some point. So fun. Let's move on to Chris's number 2. Chris, what you got? Or excuse me, no, sorry, number 3.
Number 3.
Yep.
For number 3, I picked the Pink Gleeful Bunny. And anybody that has experienced the Pink Gleeful Bunny knows very well that it's very controversial and is game-breaking usually if it is allowed to survive. Being able to have a free $5 every turn gives you the ability to buy defense cards, pawns, can push you for medals and exchanging that for money. So all around, it's a dangerous card if left alive, and therefore it's my number 3.
Nice. I did check Pink Tuskegee. It's not accurate for me to say it's considered trade, so that's nice. It actually has a clause in there that has a can't switch owners more than once per game. I wish it could. That'd make it actually interesting. But yeah, Pink Lethal. A notorious card that we talk about here on Bunny Banter because we don't like thinking about the extra super pink. We like thinking about its fifth of it is quite sufficiently strong enough to discuss. I have a love-hate relationship with the Pink Lethal because it causes the game to go quicker, which is nice, but also fair and balanced. Generate $5 per turn. Meditation money bunnies, eat your heart out. Good job, promos. Yeah, I know you're intended to generate actual money, but since medals are in play, Pink Lethal could do that anyways, so feels bad for you. Yeah, that's all I have to say about Pink Lethal. I don't like to think about him. As soon as he's in play, he's an insta buyback for everyone. Okay, moving on to Mikey's number 3. What you got, Mikey?
My number 3 is Church Bunny. I picked this for a couple reasons. First reason is just the basic, what the card does. I think, normally I'm not one who likes kind of chance cards, but this isn't a bad one. Whether you're the opponent or the player, because you have an opportunity, especially if somebody has some really good specials or save specials or very specials, to acquire them. Especially if you know what boosters they're from, and then you can have a better idea of what colors to choose from. And it's not horrible if you're the opponent. Perhaps you have some save specials that you don't really care for, and they're just sitting there, and you're never really going to use them. Or, there's always the chance that the person picking the cards is going to get one wrong, and you might not lose anything. So it's a pretty safe chance kind of thing, I think. Unless you're playing with Matthew. But the other reason is just I love the reference. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's referring to an SNL sketch called The Church Lady, played by Dana Carvey, and it's hilarious. You should look it up. And it gives you the opportunity when you're playing the game, you get to go, well, isn't that special? Just like Dana Carvey. So, lots of fun. Opportunity to get some cards that might be good for you, and it's not too much of a risk if an opponent's playing it on you. So
Nice. Well, moving on into the number 2 picks. My number 2 pick is, I keep colliding with Mikey here, Church Bunny. Oh boy. So Mikey mentioned it's safe for the opponent as long as you're not playing with Matthew. Church Bunny, and I noticed this in the tournament, somewhat. Church Bunny was played in the Killer Bunnies tournament, and there is a distinct difference between when Church Bunny is played by an experienced player, and by experienced I mean highly skilled, as in knowing card backs, and a player who is, just kind of playing their cards and doesn't really, what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't check the card backs beforehand at the very least.
Ignorant.
Ignorant, yes, that is a word you could use. So it definitely shows the difference there, because there's 3 levels, 3 skill levels of playing Church Bunny. You have the player who is just guessing, and they might get 1 or 2 specials out of it. Really depends on how many specials the opponent actually had saved and how many they had in their hand. Statistics and all that, blah, 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 who cares? Church Bunny is not very strong for that player. The second skill level is the player who checks the opponent's card backs beforehand, because their specials are public information. Just asks to look at them and read them, and then just casually look at the back. In Tabletop Simulator, this is significantly easier than real life, because you don't have to physically ask for the cards, and obviously you're not going to ask the opponent, what's the card back on that? You're not going to ask that. I suppose there is like a skill level 2 part B, where you say, oh, you had the card backs memorized anyways, so then therefore you don't need to ask, and it looks less aggressive then. But there's that, and using that strategy, you can usually get all of the save specials of the opponent, which is amazing, especially if they're one of those players who gets a little bit greedy, which I haven't seen very recently, honestly. Getting greedy with some of the P cards like Super Surprise and Monumental Baker. I haven't seen. I feel like I've seen a lot of specials played quickly, so they kind of playing around Church Bunny. But anyways, if you're playing a group that is greedy and hoards specials, then you get to take advantage of that. And the third skill level, which is you have to have someone who's obsessed with the game like me, who plays often enough that they can very well read what's in their opponent's hand to say, that card they've been holding for a long time, I bet that's a very special. And then you look at the card back and be like, oh yeah, I bet that's Reverse of Fortune in their hand. So then at that point, not only do you get all their saved cards, but you also get whatever specials were in their hand if you have good hand reading skills. And that is absolutely disgusting when Church Bunny goes that far, because it is very frequent that players, especially skilled players, especially players like me who play hidden investments, will keep very high value, very specials in their hand, like Reverse of Fortune, like Bunny on the Edge of Forever, things like that, where if you steal those, it's game swinging. And all of a sudden their entire plans are ruined. And that's the third level skill of Church Bunny. And that's where things get scary. That's why Church Bunny is my number 2 pick, because if it rewards skilled players, it rewards players that are paying attention. I like cards that reward players that paying attention. Okay, what you got for your number 2, Chris?
Pink slip.
Speaking of very specials that you keep in the hand.
I've been very consistently trying to pick cards over these banter sessions that are what I call the need to know what they do cards. So pink slip allows you to take away the pink square away from a card and make it not aggressive, which of course you're going to use for Bunny Gross.
Of course, yeah, that's the very important. That's the strongest aggressive card in the game. That and shuffleboard.
Right. You got to save it for shuffleboard. But the real purpose behind it, of course, is creating combos and strategies that would not necessarily require Bunny otherwise, that can become game-breaking. And that's why it's my number 2.
Play Necrophagy to clear the board when you have no Bunny.
Oh.
Seems pretty good. I was very close. So I'm a big fan of Pink Slip. but there is something about Pink Slip that has not been clarified,
And it deserves its own episode.
and it bothers me. It deserves its own episode, but I'll say it briefly here. Pink Slip has an any card clause without any context. What is any card? Where can it be? Can you take the pink box off a card in the deck? Theoretically. You know, the lack of context and the lack of mechanical consistency to refer to means we actually have no idea how this card works. The obvious intended use case is to play it with the card that you're about to play. You know, some aggressive card that, oh, you happen not to have a bunny, so you're just going to pink slip it off. Great. But the card text suggests that there are more use cases than that, and that's interesting. The second thing that it has not been clarified. So Jeff, you have two jobs today, Jeff. First one, is any card literally any card? Or is there some sort of implied context? Second question, when does the pink box come back? Is it one-time use? Or I should say, is it implied one-time use? Or does the lack of the mention of it coming back mean that, let's say, somebody had retrieval the next turn, would the pink box still not be on it so you could retrieve the non-aggressive Necrophagy and play it again? Is that a possibility? We don't know! It hasn't been clarified. So, you know, Jeff was busy with the election. I think he was volunteering or something. So, yeah, he has not answered those questions for me yet. That was discovered semi-recently. So hopefully we'll find out. If we don't find out, then complicated. It terrifies me, the idea of trying to keep track of a card in the deck that was pink slipped. So it was very close to being on my ban for that reason. It was very close to being on my top 3 list for the reason Chris said, because it's just an amazing card. Okay. That was Chris's number 2. What you got, Mikey?
My number 2 is Blanche. Where it removes the color from any normal bunny or half-colored bunny, turning it into a free agent. And red bunnies and pink bunnies lose their special features. I don't know why, it just has a really good connotation in my mind. Like, I can picture it. There's a picture of a bunny and a washing machine. And it just has this really good connotation. It just feels like this really good card. It really doesn't do anything that great, but it just feels like a really good card.
Good theme.
Yeah, that's why I picked it. Because, I mean, free agents are nice. I mean, especially if you're trying to create a triplet, which isn't super hard. But I haven't played light yet. You said this is in light, though, correct?
It is in light, I believe it. I wish it wasn't.
Now, do they have free agents in light?
Let me think about that for a second. Yes, there are free agents, I think.
How many free agents?
Look at the card list. I think there's 2. I'm going to check the card list, so just keep going.
Okay. Well, so my thought was, with this being in free agent, because in starter set, it's significantly harder to get a triplet than it is when you're playing full set. And so I know you had said that you didn't like this and then think it was good in light, but you know, like I said, I haven't played it yet. But if it's anything like starter set, where it is more difficult to get a triplet, this is just another means by which somebody can acquire a triplet, and also teaches teaches a card that isn't normally in starter set. So, it feels like a good card, has a good connotation in my mind. Maybe because I associate it with like white stuff or something, but. Even though just because of white, just the color. But
you have the card, the White Party, that steals free agents and white stuff. So there you go.
There you go.
It all comes together.
So anyway, yeah, there's no like real like solid reason. It just feels good.
Right. So I confirmed there are 2 free agents in Light. Now, the reason why I really wish Blanche was not in Light is because of the removes Red Bunny special features clause. Because
Oh.
that is there's technically 3 Red Bunnies in Light, okay? There's the
Mhm,
Ludicrous, which has the horseshoes. That makes sense. There's the
mhm.
Truculent, which has the reroll. That makes sense. But then there's the Holographic, which Blanche can actually be played on. And
Oh.
it bothers me a lot that Blanche and Holographic are in the same introduction set. Because
Mhm,
that is a mechanic that I do not want to explain when playing an introduction set, where all of a sudden, for the most part, Light is amazing for teaching. But as soon as I have
mhm.
to say, I know that card says it removes Red Bunny special features, but holographic special features aren't actually tied to it being red. It's tied to it being holographic, so that's why that's not affected. And they're like, but it's a Red Bunny, it has special features. And I'm like, no, that's not how the mechanic works. And they're like, you're making all
Well,
this up. I'm
is
like,
it
no,
in
I'm not.
the
I'm not. It's
the
that
real question?
situation. I hate it.
Hey,
Yeah.
is that actually in the light bits though?
No, that's not. There's no mention of that in the light bits.
Mm.
It just has the same. Let's see. Make sure they kept it as any bunny clause because it really it's not any bunny clause is inaccurate as well. It's been errated to any quote unquote standard bunny, such as any of the 5 standard bunnies from Quest or Conquest. So Pinky Tuscahero is unaffected by this. Long story short. It's actually
So
it's physically impossible to play this on Pinky Tuscahero because you can't make a Pinky Tuscahero free agent.
is so if it's not in the light bits, and light is not necessarily canon the except for the carrots, and the rest of light is not canon with the rest of Killer Bunny's full set, then is it possible that in light it does remove the special features of the holographic bunny?
I can see the argument for clarifying it as such, but then it begs the question: does it also remove the detriment that holographic bunny doesn't count at the end?
Hmm.
The real question is: does holographic bunny actually belong in the light set? Maybe holographic bunny is the problem here.
Correct.
That might be the real answer, because the rest of the bunnies are just fine, and in that case, Blanche would be just fine.
We need to make a T-shirt with holographic and Blanche on it and then choose your side.
What I'm thinking actually happened is in the design process, whoever suggested Blanche probably forgot that holographic wasn't affected and just assumed it was because that's what it would sound
Yep.
like from saying it.
Jeff!
It could have been Jeff. Jeff could have worked quickly and forgotten that. It wouldn't be the first time for that specific clarification. But yeah, that in full set, I'm just fine with it as a card. It makes perfect sense, especially with the release of the pink bunnies. It's an excellent counter. But the light set, I have problems with existing in there. I think it exists in Remix too, doesn't it?
Yep.
Remix has. I don't think Remix has quite the same problems. Are there any unique?
There's no problems with Remix at all.
Yeah, there are no uniques in Remix, right? No holographics, no pinkies, none of that. I don't remember
Remix
any.
is the perfect expansion.
No, it's not. Remix has Ice 9 super supplies. It's not balanced.
It's balanced.
It's pink lethal too.
It's
In
balanced.
Remix, I played a pink lethal turn 1 and bought all the pawns, and 4 players could not do anything about it. Full Freight Train. Freight Train's viable in Remix, and it's not okay.
Freight Train is king in Remix.
Freight Train is king, yes. I don't like it when Freight Train is king. Ice 9 super supplies is a fair and balanced combo. Okay. Although I do like remix because you get Omega Prawn frequently, so that's nice. Because that's totally viable. Okay, moving on to the number 1 pick, and big surprise, all 3 of us have the same exact number 1 pick. I guess it is decided what is the best card in the perfectly pink booster. This is in fact the perfect card. The card is Transcendental Run, a very special allows you to transform any run card into a very special card. Every time someone tries to play it that's not me, they ask if they can save the run card, and they cannot. Maybe use any time. Where should we start with this one? Chris, you want to start talking about?
It's just one of those cards that creates combos that shouldn't happen otherwise. I consider it one of the top 5-6 cards in the game, probably. It also begs the question, are you saving this for the end game, or are you getting your big advantage early?
Yeah,
that was kind of my favorite parts about it.
Excellent card to transition at either point. What do you think, Mikey?
It's just awesome. I don't know. I don't. There isn't a whole lot to say. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory that this is a great card. You have the whole world at your fingertips with Transcendental Run. There isn't a whole lot for me to say other than it's great. And what about this? Every other card, Transcendental Run. Boom. Horrible game. It sounded good, and then I got it out of my mouth, and I thought that was probably not a good idea.
And
Anyway.
you probably shouldn't trade it for a blue Gleeful Bunny in your other opponent's hand.
You know, you probably shouldn't. Run Transformer and Transcendental Run, I always get questions about why you can't save the run card. The point is you're transforming a run card from your hand, which now that I mention it, that's an any card clause, right? So maybe that answers the pink slip question. It's because we all understand Transcendental Run to be we all understand it to be a run card in the hand. Is it technically possible to transform a run card in the deck? I suppose, but oh no, in the blind bits it clarifies hand. Never mind. It does not answer the pink slip clause. Okay. I take it all back. It is in the bunny bits in its 5-card hand. So it's that's that completely, you know, that's an example of where the any card clause has an added context. You see, there we can clearly see what the intended mechanic is. We expect a pink slip to be similar, but at the same time there's no clause. So who knows? But you know, I always get the question, why can't I save it? Well, first of all, it's coming from your hand, so obviously not. Second of all, you're missing the entire point of the card. The point of the card is to change when you can play your run card. An example of Run Transformer, you are playing a run card from your hand instead of, well, if you play Run Transformer from your run, it's instead of your normal run, I guess, but you know, you usually play as a save special. It's more like a one-time use rank sort of idea. With Transcendental Run, it makes any run card a very special, which means it can be played at any time, which causes some interesting mechanical questions. You know, you have situations where it's like, well, let's say the opponent is about to play but hasn't yet played their weapon. Can I Transcendental my weapon to kill their bunny before they can play their weapon? Timing, mistiming. I don't like mistiming because it's not supposed to exist in Killer Bunnies, so the answer is no. The answer is actually no there. Once the opponent has revealed their top run card, you can't Transcendental to deny it. It's kind of an interesting interaction there. There's some very sketchy timings where if a player doesn't know how Transcendental Run works, they would have expected to be able to kill the opponent's bunny at that instance, but it's not actually possible. So, fun fact, somebody probably learned that today.
The good news is you can get Bunny Grass off on your opponent's turn.
Yes, you can play Bunny Gra or Shuffleboard during your opponent's turn. That's huge. The other question is, this one hasn't actually been clarified. There's also the situation where what happens when your opponent plays a weapon on you. Can you Transcendental run something to make sure it goes through before the weapon's actually resolved and the bunny dies? That's kind of a different timing. I would tend to say yes, you could, in principle. But it causes timing issues, so I kind of have problems with it for that reason, just because I like to have clear mechanics, and it's kind of weird. But the typical use case is, if it's actually a problem that you want to remove your opponent's bunny before they can play a certain card, just kill it the previous turn. If you are very highly skilled at the game and you have a good read and you're like, okay, that opponent's red card set down is obviously bankruptcy because they held it in their hand for 7 turns and now they finally set it when somebody drew money. Good luck. Maybe you realize that subconsciously. That's usually how it goes for me. I don't actually go through that thought process, but I'm like, I have a good feeling that card right there is bankruptcy. And then I'll play Transcendental run the turn before and nuke the bunny. There you go. That's the way I do it. Or it's just basically use it as it's a huge tempo, right? You not only do you get to play an extra card on your turn or during anyone's turn, could be during your own turn, but if you're playing the Transcendental run from your hand and the run from your hand, you get to draw 2 more cards because you just played 2 cards, and that's incredible. That's the hidden, not so obvious benefit of it, is you also get to cycle 2 cards for free. Where's the downside? It's even non-aggressive. Bunny Graw is aggressive and Transcendental Run is non-aggressive. Think about that. What's going on?
Shuffleboard.
Transcendental Run into an aggressive card into pink slip. That's a big play right there. Non-aggressive Necrophagy from the hand. It's like hand traps.
Non-aggressive shuffleboard.
Non-aggressive shuffleboard from the hand. Too bad if the market's closed, you won't get anything. Oh, same goes for Bunny Grub. That's something I forgot to mention with Bunny Grub. Oh, it feels bad if the market is closed.
So what have we learned?
What we learned? Transcendental Run is amazing.
Is that the only good card in the expansion?
Apparently, Mikey likes every card in the expansion.
I had such a hard time trying to find one that was like bad enough to ban.
Yeah.
I mean, they were all decent. I mean, I didn't look through I never looked through the weapons, honestly. One of these times I'm going to pick like $1 and that's going to be my number 1 card.
Well, Chris picked $50 for the ban last round, so.
That's true.
We did forget to mention that ranks were introduced, weren't they?
Yes, ranks are in this set. I'm surprised none of us banned those. We got very close. Yeah, that goes to show you the points of this booster review series, is because there are some in the community who have often suggested making a ban list, like these cards do not belong in the full set. And if you agree with them, you tend to think that's a good idea, but then you realize, hey, let's take this pink booster, for example. Chris and I were struggling to find cards that we liked, and I could have banned maybe 7 of the cards on the set, counting ranks as 1. Mike, he had the complete opposite problem where he couldn't find a card to ban, so a ban list is... there can never be a unified ban list in the full set, because any card that you ban is just someone else's favorite card, because everyone has different play styles.
Yep.
Except for Transcendental Run, everyone loves Transcendental Run apparently, so I guess that's the one card you can't ban.
And it probably is the only one that actually deserves to be banned.
Honestly, yes, because if we're talking from a mechanical standpoint, and assuming Pink Slip isn't broken mechanically by changing cards in the deck, yes, Transcendental Run is the one mechanically that should be banned. Because it can cause ambiguous timings, and nobody likes ambiguous timings. That's why most very specials are a strict negate, like Magic Spatula negates a weapon. Doing something else at instant speed is weird. So that's funny how the card we all picked as number one is the card that mechanically actually potentially could be banned. So funny. Oh, I'm getting a call from Jeff. I guess we better end Bunny Banter. Okay.
Oh boy. Hi, Jeff.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to Bunny Banter today. This has been Boost Review of the Pink series. Not sure what our plans are for next episode yet. Hopefully Jeff is calling to tell me about Cake Batter and to clarify Pink Slip. Who knows? Anything you'd like to say, Mikey?
Be smart and have a good week, good 2 weeks, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Stay safe and don't do anything stupid. And Jeff bless.
Jeff bless.